In the year 2045, humanity's fate changed forever. Massive alien ships, sleek and ominous, suddenly appeared in Earth's orbit, hovering over major cities like silent predators stalking their prey. World leaders scrambled to make contact, desperate to discern the extraterrestrial visitors' intentions, but their efforts were met with an eerie, impenetrable silence. As days turned to weeks, the global tension reached a boiling point. Economies ground to a halt, and panic began to grip the hearts of billions. Then, without warning, the aliens unleashed hell upon Earth. Brilliant beams of plasma rained down from the sky, leveling entire city blocks in seconds. Alien ground forces, clad in advanced exoskeletal armor and wielding weapons of unimaginable power, materialized in the streets, cutting through humanity's defenses like a scythe through wheat. The world's mightiest militaries, caught utterly unprepared, crumbled like sandcastles before the tide. The aliens had done their homework, striking with ruthless precision at key strategic assets, neutralizing humanity's ability to coordinate a defense. Nuclear arsenals, long considered the ultimate deterrent, were rendered impotent by the invaders' technology, detonating harmlessly in their silos or fizzling out in the upper atmosphere. As smoke choked the skies and cities burned, a stunned humanity was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. They were no longer the apex predators of Earth. The aliens had claimed that title, and they seemed intent on asserting their dominion over every inch of the planet. In mere days, the geopolitical map of Earth was redrawn in the invaders' image. Former superpowers, their governments decapitated and their armies shattered, submitted to the alien yoke. A suffocating hopelessness descended upon the world as the scope of the catastrophe sank in. Humanity, once the uncontested master of its domain, had been reduced to a cowering prey animal in the blink of an eye. Yet even in this darkest hour, there were those who refused to yield. In bunkers and bolt holes, in the hearts and minds of the defiant, the embers of resistance began to glow. The aliens, for all their might, would soon learn that human tenacity was not so easily extinguished. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and humanity was determined to prove that it would not go quietly into the night. The weeks following the initial alien onslaught were a blur of chaos and despair. Around the globe, the story was the same. The invaders tightened their grip on the throats of once proud nations, snuffing out resistance with brutal efficiency. China, despite its vast military and hardened resolve, fell in a matter of days. The aliens, having carefully studied humanity's defenses, launched a series of coordinated strikes that crippled the People's Liberation Army. Key leaders disappeared, strategic commands went dark, and confusion reigned. By the time the central government realized the scope of the attack, it was too late. The red flag was lowered in Beijing, replaced by the unsettling banner of the alien regime. Russia, long a bastion of stoic endurance, fared little better. The alien ships hovered over Moscow like great black thunderclouds, disgorging swarms of advanced war machines that cut through the nation's defenses like a laser through paper. The Russian people, raised on stories of sacrifice and victory against impossible odds, were demoralized as they watched their military, once feared as one of the mightiest on Earth, crumble in the face of this implacable foe. In Europe, ancient capitals that had stood for centuries fell like dominoes. The streets of Paris, London, and Berlin echoed with the clank of alien footsteps and the wails of the subjugated. The European Union, a symbol of humanity's ability to unite in pursuit of a common cause, dissolved in the face of the extraterrestrial threat, its member states too busy struggling for survival to consider cooperation. Across the globe, a grim realization dawned. The age of human supremacy was over. The aliens had not just defeated Earth's nations, they had broken them, shattering the confidence and cohesion that had been the bedrock of human civilization. In the face of this existential crisis, it seemed that the story of humanity would be a short, tragic footnote in the annals of galactic history. Yet, amid the ashes of the old world order, a flicker of defiance still burned. In the land of the free and the home of the brave, a nation with a history of triumphing against long odds was stirring. The United States, battered but unbroken, was about to remind the invaders that human predators, when cornered, are at their most dangerous. The final stand was about to begin. As the world reeled from the alien conquest, the eyes of the invaders turned to the last significant power yet to fall, the United States of America. The aliens, flush with victory and confident in their superiority, expected the nation to follow the pattern set by the rest of the world, a brief, futile resistance, followed by inevitable submission. They could not have been more wrong. In bunkers deep beneath the American heartland, a grim-faced president convened an emergency meeting of the nation's top military and scientific minds. The situation was dire, but surrender was not an option. The United States, a nation forged in the crucible of revolution and tempered by centuries of trials, would not go gentle into that good night. The first order of business was survival. The government and key military assets were dispersed, hidden away in a network of hardened underground facilities designed to withstand even the most relentless assault. From these secret bastions, America's leaders began to lay the groundwork for resistance. The strategy was simple but audacious: bleed the aliens white. The United States, with its vast territory and fiercely independent populace, was uniquely suited for a prolonged guerrilla war. The invaders, for all their technological might, would find no swift victory here. Instead, they would face a grueling, soul-crushing quagmire, a war of attrition that would sap their strength and break their will. Across the nation, the call went out. From the streets of shattered cities to the wilds of the Rocky Mountains, Americans of all stripes heeded the summons. Soldiers, both active duty and retired, formed the core of the resistance, their skills and experience invaluable in the fight ahead. But they were joined by countless civilians, farmers and factory workers, teachers and truck drivers, united by a common determination to defend their homeland against the alien menace. The stage was set for a clash of wills that would echo through the ages. On one side, an alien juggernaut, armed with technology beyond human ken and driven by an inscrutable agenda. On the other, a nation of indomitable human spirit, ready to pay any price and bear any burden in the name of freedom. The invaders were about to learn that sometimes the prey bites back. As the aliens consolidated their hold on the major cities, they quickly realized that America would be a far tougher nut to crack than the nations that had fallen before. The U.S. military, taking a page from the guerrilla playbooks of history, launched a campaign of hit-and-run attacks designed to keep the invaders off balance and disrupt their operations. Small, highly mobile teams struck at alien weak points with lightning speed, then melted back into the vast American landscape before the enemy could respond in force. Supply convoys were ambushed, communication hubs sabotaged, and isolated alien units picked off with sniper fire and IEDs. The resistance fighters were ghosts, striking without warning and leaving only chaos in their wake. The aliens, used to the structured, stand-up fights of their conquest thus far, were initially confounded by these tactics. Their superior technology, while devastating in direct combat, was of little use against an enemy that refused to stand and fight. Frustration mounted as human victories, though small in scale, began to accumulate. But the invaders were quick to adapt. They began deploying sophisticated sensor networks and autonomous drones to hunt down the human guerrillas. Alien Special Forces units, trained in counterinsurgency warfare, took to the field, engaging the Americans in a deadly game of cat and mouse among the forests, mountains, and ruined cities of the nation. For months, the battle raged in the shadows. The Americans, drawing on their nation's vast resources and indomitable spirit, met the aliens' escalation with grim resolve. Advanced weapons, scavenged or stolen from the invaders themselves, found their way into the hands of the resistance fighters. Alien technology, once an unassailable advantage, became a double-edged sword. The cost was high. Casualty rates among the human forces were staggering, and the civilian population suffered mightily under the iron heel of the occupation. But the Americans, for all their losses, were buying precious time. With each passing day, the invaders' grip on Earth weakened a little more. The seeds of ultimate victory, though yet unseen, were being sown in the blood and toil of the resistance. The stage was set for a turning point in the war. In secret labs and workshops across the nation, American ingenuity was about to level the playing field in a way the aliens could never have anticipated. The prey was ready to become the predator once more. As the guerrilla war raged, the American resistance was not content to merely survive. In hidden research facilities, teams of brilliant scientists and engineers labored day and night, racing to unlock the secrets of the alien technology. It was a desperate gamble, but one that would prove to be a turning point in the conflict. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source: a group of graduate students and a professor, working in a makeshift lab beneath the ruins of their university. By reverse engineering captured alien devices and combining the results with cutting-edge human research, they devised a way to neutralize the invaders' most fearsome weapons. The key was a novel form of electromagnetic pulse, EMP, that could target the specific frequency ranges used by the alien tech. When deployed, it would render the invaders' energy weapons and shields temporarily inert, leveling the playing field for Earth's defenders. The resistance leadership wasted no time in capitalizing on this development. The new EMP devices were swiftly replicated and distributed to American forces across the country. In a series of coordinated strikes, human teams equipped with this game-changing technology launched daring raids on major alien strongholds. The results were stunning. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens found themselves on the back foot. Their advanced weaponry, once an unassailable advantage, was neutralized by the human EMP fields. Face to face with the battle-hardened American soldiers, the invaders discovered that their physical prowess was no match for human tenacity and skill at arms. Across the nation, the tide began to turn. The aliens, their aura of invincibility shattered, retreated from key positions. American forces, emboldened by their successes, pressed the advantage. The once silent streets echoed with the cheers of liberated citizens and the rattle of gunfire as the resistance reclaimed the homeland, block by block and city by city. The aliens, for the first time, tasted the bitter pill of defeat. Their commanders, so confident in their superiority, were thrown into disarray by this unexpected turn of events. The mighty fist that had cracked the world like an eggshell now seemed brittle and uncertain. Yet the invaders were far from beaten. Even as they reeled from the American counteroffensive, they were regrouping, adapting, devising new strategies to crush the human upstarts. In their heart of hearts, they still believed that victory was inevitable. After all, what was one upstart species against the might of a galactic power? But the Americans had tasted hope, and they would not relinquish it easily. Buoyed by their triumphs and united by hardship, they were forging a new identity in the crucible of war, no longer just a nation, but the standard bearers of humanity itself. And they were determined to see this fight through to the end, no matter the cost. The stage was set for the final act of this apocalyptic drama. The aliens, their pride wounded and their resolve stiffened, were preparing for a massive counterstrike to crush the American resistance once and for all. But the humans, armed with courage, ingenuity, and an indomitable will to survive, were ready to meet fire with fire. The ultimate battle for the fate of Earth was about to begin. The American victories, as inspiring as they were, came with a sobering realization. They had awakened a sleeping giant. The aliens, stung by their defeats, were now fully committed to the subjugation of Earth. Vast reinforcements poured in from the stars, and the invaders began to prepare for a final, crushing assault on the heart of the resistance. But the Americans, having come so far, were not about to roll over. Armed with their new technologies and buoyed by a string of successes, they devised a daring plan. A massive, coordinated counterstrike against the alien forces massing across the nation. The keystone of the operation was a decapitation strike against the alien command ship, hovering menacingly over the ruins of Washington, D.C. If the Americans could take out the invaders' leadership, it would throw their entire force into disarray and open the door for a nationwide counteroffensive. The assault was launched on a cold, gray morning. As the sun rose over the shattered landscape, American forces across the country went into action. EMP generators hummed to life, blanketing the alien positions with disruptive energy fields. Teams of commandos, equipped with reverse-engineered alien stealth tech, slipped through the gaps in the invaders' defenses, sowing chaos and destruction behind the lines. Meanwhile, a hand-picked team of the nation's finest warriors embarked on the most crucial mission of the war. Transported by a fleet of stealthed aircraft, they penetrated the airspace around the alien command ship and boarded the massive vessel, determined to cut the head off the snake. The fighting aboard the ship was fierce and bloody. The aliens, caught off guard by the audacity of the human assault, nonetheless fought with the fury of a cornered beast. The American soldiers, led by grizzled veterans of countless battles, matched them blow for blow, driven by a grim determination to see their mission through. In the end, it was the sheer, indomitable will of the human spirit that carried the day. Against all odds, the American team fought their way to the ship's command center and eliminated the alien leadership in a final, desperate firefight. As the smoke cleared, they transmitted a simple, triumphant message to their waiting comrades planetside. Mission accomplished. Let's take our world back. With the invaders' chain of command severed, the American counteroffensive kicked into high gear. Across the nation, human forces surged forward, driving the disoriented and demoralized aliens before them. What had begun as a desperate last stand had become a tidal wave of human determination, crashing against the crumbling bulwarks of the alien occupation. The war was far from over. The invaders, for all their setbacks, still possessed a vast technological advantage and the resources of an interstellar empire. But the initiative had shifted. For the first time since the nightmare began, it was humanity that was on the offensive, united under the banner of American leadership. The prey had become the predator, and the aliens were about to learn the true meaning of human resilience. In the wake of the successful American counterstrike, the dynamics of the war had shifted dramatically. The aliens, their command structure in disarray, and their aura of invincibility shattered, suddenly found themselves on the defensive across the globe. The human resistance, galvanized by the American example, surged forth with renewed vigor and determination. In cities and towns across the occupied territories, the story was the same. The aliens, once an unstoppable juggernaut, were now beset on all sides by a species they had badly underestimated. The human spirit, tempered by adversity and united by a common cause, had proven to be a force far more formidable than any technological advantage. As the tide of battle turned, the invaders began a fighting retreat to their landing zones, hoping to regroup and call in reinforcements. But the human forces, armed with captured alien tech and guided by American strategic brilliance, pressed their advantage relentlessly. In a series of stunning victories, they cut off the aliens' escape routes and forced them into a final desperate stand. The battles that followed were the stuff of legend, the last titanic clashes of a war that had reshaped the course of human history. In the end, it was the indomitable will and adaptive ingenuity of humanity that carried the day. The aliens, broken and demoralized, at last laid down their arms and surrendered to the victorious human forces. But even as the guns fell silent and the smoke of battle cleared, the leaders of the resistance knew that their work was far from over. The world that emerged from the ashes of the invasion was a changed one, forged in the crucible of a war that had touched every life on the planet. Under American leadership, the nations of Earth embarked on a monumental effort to rebuild and adapt. The advanced technologies gleaned from the aliens, combined with human innovation, gave rise to a new era of scientific and social progress. The old divisions that had long plagued humanity seemed to melt away in the face of this shared challenge and shared triumph. Yet there was no complacency in this brave new world. The hard lessons of the war were seared into the collective consciousness of humanity. Never again would Earth be caught unprepared. Never again would the fate of the species be left to chance. As humanity ascended to take its place among the stars, it did so with eyes wide open and senses sharpened. No longer the prey in a hostile cosmos, humans had emerged as the ultimate predators, resilient, adaptable, and fiercely determined to forge their own destiny. The galaxy would never be the same.